Alright, welcome back. If you're just joining me, this is Abuja coming to you from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. And now I've been joined by Hassan, Sarudana, and together we shall be taking a look at some of the stories you just saw. Thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Thank you for having me, Sandra.
All right, let's begin with the Okada ban. About 400 motorcycles have been crushed, not just confiscated and seized. They've been crushed, destroyed in the FCTA. Last week, it was reported that about 300 of them, so making it a total of almost 700 to 800 motorcycles have been destroyed in the FCTA in recent times. What are your thoughts on this? Before we take into consideration the fact that approximately 800 people have become unemployed in the FCT. So first, speaking with one of the officials, he made mention of the issues of insecurity and the nuisance being caused by some of these motorcycles. But then imagine the nuisance or the issues of insecurity, because he made mention of robbery and all of that. That will now go on now that 800 of them don't have anything doing.
Sandra, first, people must know what it means by FCT, that is Federal Capital Territory.
Okay.
You must know why it is being moved out of Lagos to Abuja. Thirdly, one must know it is for a seat of government. But ordinary Nigerians doesn't look it that way. They have a different thought about what we call Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. I am a good sympathizer of what is happening to these fellow citizens, because they have been trying to create and they gave themselves a job, which become a self-employed people. Some of them, they are not even self-employed. They are working for other people, taking a return and then having the little that can keep. Maybe the owner of the motorcycles will tell them bring 500 or 1,000 per day. So every day he is taking 1,000 to the owner of the motorcycle, and then he may get away with maybe 500 or another 1,000, based on whatever he
the returns for the day.
So what am I trying to say here is this. So you see, some are not even self-employed. They are rather still employed by some people to work for them. But what am I trying to put straightforward is that Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, is a seat of government. A seat of government is where governance are taking place. This governance that we are talking about is not about having Okada. If you are having Okada, let it be regulated. Is there any regulation in dealing with this type of people? Yes, there is. What am I trying to say here is that when you find out, you realize that about 5 to 10 years now, there are some places where Okadas were stopped from reaching to those places, going to that places. The same thing, if you remember, a few years back, the beginning of this government, there was buses that are coming from Nyanya, Mararaba, where those type of buses have been banned. And still we are surviving. Instead, Bolt, what do we call it? Bolt, there are about 3 or Ubers and whatever were introduced. And in any country, a developed country or a growing country that means a business, such things are put in place. But when you are talking about Okada, Okada is supposed to be in remote areas. Because when you configure the figures of people that are dying every day, daily, for the cause of these Okada people, the accidents that are happening in the course of these Okada riders, you will going to surprise Sandra. What am I trying to say is that they were denied, or they were asked to desist from the main express ways in FCT. But these people are not stopping them. They are still coming in on the expressway. And to what will surprise you now, they're going to be on the, what they call it, where what do we call it, and the land where people are going, they are coming from there. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying.
Yes.
Which is very, very dangerous. I saw those that fight between a woman that was carried by the Okada. She was insulting a car owner. He said, what is my fault now? This is my hand. You understand what I'm saying? And you are coming from Nyanya. You leave your right lane, which you're supposed to follow, and you are on my lane. And at the same time, I have tried to give you people a chance to pass, but for insulting me, you must tell me what is the reason. And the man that was talking is a security personnel. And you know what security personnel means in Nigeria? Yeah. In fact, at the later day, she was begging, going to her knees, that, sorry, she don't know that he is security. So if you are not a security, you are not safe from any insult or any dehumanization from these Okada people. You will see a lot of things that you are not expecting. Those who are holding this very foil, going to the filling station, you will see more than 100 Okadas inside. What are they doing? They will be buying the, what they call it, the foil, and going out and be selling to those who are standing by the roadside, selling in the gallon. So you can see how they are sabotaging the economy, the peace, and the, even security. A lot of people have died in the course of insecurity, robbery with this, what do we call it, motorcycle, what we call Okada men. Okada men, there are some racketeers across every place that you know outside the satellite of this town, whereby some of them, they will take you to some, you will ask for so place, especially when they realize that you are a new person. No, they will take you to a place where you will going to be harmed. Many have been dead people were found, their bodies were found. Then later you will hear that maybe it's a sign of somebody hit him from or hit her from the behind. Those sort of things. So I think what the FCT is doing is not wrong. Only thing is that maybe people will feel, there is no sympathy by just crushing them down. But when you collect them, tomorrow they will go and buy another one. If you keep them, maybe they go buy they will have their ways and get this Okada's motorcycle back to them. So my view is that let us try to respect the master plans and the what do we call it, the authorities, for what they want to create a very peace, a secured place for us and whatever. Because I know that people will be talking, no, that this is inhuman. People have created job for themselves. Yes.
Then you made mention of the master plan. Now I'm going to have to cut you short. So, and you also made mention of people have created job for themselves and all of that. So, in the master plan, what was the plan of whoever made the master plan for an average Abuja resident? People who, first, we have issues of transportation here in the FCT. We all know that. So people in the rural areas coming out to the express, how do they do that? Because there's no plan for transportation. Now this 800, approximately 800 people have been let go of their means of livelihood. What happens to them? What is the plan in the master plan? Because you made mention of the master plan, so I'm not understanding how this master plan actually works if there's no space for an average Nigerian or an average Abuja resident in it.
I don't know what do you mean by average Nigerian, but all I know is that there are what we call social stratification. Okay. The upper class citizens, the medium, and the lower one. So if you are talking about the lower one, that is me and you here, we cannot deny ourselves by a reality. Maybe if you are living from where there is no access roads, that is where cars cannot pass, then you can join the Okada man. That is the motorcycles. That is not allowed to take you to the bus stop where you can take a bus. When they comes to the main road, they should just go back. But what they did was, they will even take you from AYA down to from Karo or Nyanya down to AYA. Okay, now I'm going to make an instance for people who are staying in Duse and Dawaki. I'm going to use it because I'm familiar with that route. From inside Duse to the express, there's no bus stop where he can drop you, or if you take a motorcycle, except you get to Galadima Bridge, and they are not allowed to go to the
Galadima Bridge. So the most they can do if you're coming from inside Dawaki is to drop you at Dawaki Junction. There's no crossover bridge, so you have to walk back to Galadima to be able to cross the bridge. Then if you're coming from inside Duse, you have to, I think it's called Mabluba Bridge. You can't access that. So if he drops you there, you have to walk all the way to Galadima just to be able to cross. And I don't know, I feel like that's being unfair.
I am not.
If you consider the distance, like the walking distance.
Yeah. You see, you need to walk at least to reduce your cholesterol. But the fact remains, there is one thing that people fail to understand. I am not backing the government by what they are doing. I mean the government should do enough, more than enough, so that they can meet up with the needs of Abuja habitants, that is residents. But the most important part of it is this. People have already realized there is a kind of tampering with the master plan of FCT. What am I trying to say here is this. When you know Kwali, Kuje, Abaji, Buhari Area Council, and then Gwagwalada, there are supposed to be some federal ministries located there so areas, that we can reduce the chunk. You understand what I'm saying? The number of people that are staying or within, and when they wake up every day, they are only thinking up to come to the metropolitan of Abuja, and that is municipal. That is the municipality. So what we are saying here is this: if there is this opportunity for the government to do more, let them create an avenue how we will have a low-cost housing, and this thing is on course. The mistake we did is, since we know that this Abuja is a seat of government, we have some properties belong to a government, that is houses and whatever, where most of the civil servants or whatever are staying. But later, a government come with a policy of changing to create what we call monetization. That is owner-occupier. And that was the government of Olusegun Obasanjo. And most of these houses were sold to people that are living there. Some are civil servants, some are not civil servants, some have retired now, and they cannot go back to their places. Some have sold even the houses. You understand what I'm saying? And now it is not affordable to the civil service. So this is why I'm saying that I am expecting the government to do more than expectation in order to minimize the difficulties and hardship that the citizens of FCT are facing. You can imagine the number of people that are coming from Suleja axis, Kubwa and Dutse. They are more than the people that are living inside the town. This is a show banker. And you find out, you count every 10 houses, you find there are only 2 or 3 houses occupied. The others are not occupied because the owners are just people that are not ready to even put tenant there. And what they bought it for is just because maybe they are public servant. They have a way, they got money, they know how they got their money, and what they can do is just to buy a property and kept it so that when they left the offices or whatever happened, they sold it out. But when you might find, you may meet somebody like Aliko Dangote, Mike Otedola, Mike Odenuga, and the others, you find out that they don't have this type of estate because it's a waste of time. They know how to go and get their money. But somebody that doesn't have an experience of business, and he happened to be controlling billions of naira, and he has stolen part of the billions of naira, and he went ahead and bought a property. And that property, he had that per annum, the property will going to bring 5 million. And he is seeing me 5 million as a pinning note. Instead, he preferred to leave that very building. They are standing idle without occupant. And in those places, some of them create a lot of insecurity to FCT. Some, you can see only security men. And the security men, because they knew that their landlords are not coming to the places, even to visit the places. So they will be giving our rooms based on months. Some 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, those type of things. So, and in this type of people that you are giving rent without knowing who they are, you understand what I'm saying? That is how we have been harboring and accommodating criminals of high level. I could remember just recently when they were talking about insecurity, about between Maitama, Wusetu and Co. About over 1,000 people were arrested. I hope you know that very well. So by so doing, you see, these people, where are they staying in Maitama and Wusetu? In this type of places, what that were abandoned by the owners, who are doing very well and just waiting when their money finish. I know he has 10 billion. They are remaining only 2 billion. He carried that house, is 1 billion. He sold it, or an estate 2 billion. He added. He continued his life, lavish life without thinking. That is why when we are talking about this Naira design, I'm always happy. Happy in the sense that there is a future and certainty with those things. Yesterday I saw something like that. So, but let us come back to the main topic. The reality is that we, the residents of FCT, we have to create awareness, even if it means sometimes going to the street to protest and shows the government that we need where to live and stay. If you go by outside sketch of this town, you see a very wonderful estate. The estate are being locked, put under key and lock. Nobody is there because the owner have just bought that land at the cost of 1 billion, put to 1 billion or 2 billion to raise those very buildings and make it affordable. But he is not ready to run a business of estate values. You understand what I'm saying? As I said earlier, he's waiting a time to come where he will go to sell those things just to spend the money, to live a life of his choice. He don't mind. So this is why we are getting it very wrong. There must be a policy that will control and supervise over these insensitive buildings that has no people to inside, that nobody is being accommodated, that most of the criminals are staying in this type of places.
That is on the issue of housing. Well, but what now happens to the issue of transportation?
The transportation is this. And if you remember, during the former minister, then Malam Nasiru El-Rufai, the present governor of Kaduna, said he created a lot of opportunities of using mass transit bus, who were everywhere in this very FCT. But today, they are not enough. Most of them are there. You can see them by the roadside. They are parked. Whether are they not functioning, I don't know. I cannot answer. Well,
in my last interview with a representative from the Abuja Urban Mass Transit, he said that most of the buses are bad, and because of low generation of income, they are not able to fix them, and nobody's buying new buses for them. Nobody's investing in the Abuja Urban Mass Transit.
I will kick against his view of low income. Since when I was a small boy, I have been seeing Edo line. Before then, it was Bendel line. We have been seeing Cross line. We have been seeing Yankari transport. Still, we have Kano line, Katsina State Transport, Sokoto State Transport, Niger. They are doing very well. Nobody will tell me the transportation is not paying back in Nigeria.
But there should be some sort of reinvestment and reinvestment.
Then what we are trying to say is that let them meet the modern world by buying a buses of standard. You understand what I'm saying? You see the bus that have AC and whatever. Will you go and join a taxi that doesn't have this thing? Most of the like the BRT in Lagos. Are we more popular in population than Lagos? But look at their BRT. They are doing very well. That is why I gave example with Malam Nasiru then. So what am I trying to say is that it's either the people that are in charge of those very organizations. You understand what I'm saying? They are not doing to expectation, or they are not reporting back to their bosses the way they're supposed to. But the most important thing is that we knew in Nigeria, once things belong to a government, how many people cares to keep maintenance? There must be maintenance. This maintenance saves a lot of things. Not always we go on repairs. We have, when it's just like somebody happen to be a husband, he has a wife. You want to see your wife looking fine, you must go to market. You give her money. Let her go and buy a wrapper, trousers and whatever. You won't be looking like this if you are not going to the market, Sandra. So the fact remains, people should stop telling us that there is no income. Anybody that will tell me there is no income in transport, tell him he's a liar. Because the reason is that just the railway that was created recently, I knew what the former minister was saying, that at the cost of repaying the loan they borrowed from the Chinese government, $500 million, that before the stoppage of this very trend by these kidnappers or bandits, I can tell you authoritatively they have almost paid 90% of what we are owing the Chinese government. So tell me where somebody will just come here and be telling you, Sandra, there is no return or income. Look at the type of people that are coming from Enyanya, Mararaba, Masaka, Kubwa, Duse, Day.
I think that's another conversation for another day. And I really wish we could continue this conversation because we have a whole lot to talk about, but we've run out of time, and I hope to have you back some other time soon. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, and with that, we'll call it a day today on Abuja, reaching you from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. My name is Sandra. I will see you next week.